Hi everyone, I'm Ken from Crypto Trading KS. If you're new, welcome, and welcome back to our regular community. My goal is to assist you to be more of a financial blessing to yourself and those you love, and also gain real wealth in the process. Let's run the numbers. Bitcoin is currently trading at 43,290, up 2.63%. Ethereum 3045, up 6.33%. I've hidden knowledge gems throughout this video. Unless you watch to the end, you'll miss them. See how many you can find. One thing that I see here is the stablecoins USDC, DAI, USDT, and BUSD are turning green. This means money is flowing from the crypto market into the stablecoins. What we can see is a couple of really high performers: AVAX, Atom, Luna, XDZ, Matic, FTM. It's really good to look at the particular things, the cryptos that are doing quite well. We can see Celo is red. Across the market, looking at the Ethereum tokens, we can see FTM is a standout. IOST is doing quite well as well. Basically broad-based gains across the crypto market at the moment. Our community focuses on real wealth. Real wealth is much more than money. Real wealth is the reason for living, quite basically. It's all the good stuff that goes with life, like inner and outer peace, fulfillment and meaning, fearlessness, empathy and love, kindness, authenticity, integrity, and decency. When people focus on gaining as much money as they can tend to leave these other real wealth buckets, if you like, to chance. What we do inside our little community is to focus on these little buckets of real wealth. It's really what makes life worth living. We have an amazing community. I would like to reach out and thank everybody across social media, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, Facebook, for all the beautiful comments and heartfelt get well soon. It's just so touching. I just want to thank everybody so much. I'm getting there. I just want to keep on making these videos, and I'm fine by doing it. I'm just pacing myself, so don't be concerned. But I really want to keep you updated on the market. I'll just, for temporary purposes, just drop down to one video per day, but I really want to keep everybody informed. And my love to all in the community. I'm so honored to know you. Rule 501, default reactions to kindness. This is a really beautiful rule, and if you read the comments across social media, you will see so many beautiful, kind people with the default reaction of kindness. This is such a beautiful way to live. Kindness makes everything brighter. It brings the sun out. Henry James said it really beautifully. 3 things in human life are important. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind. I think Henry's saying, it's really important to be kind. Being kind makes everybody's life better. Roy T. Bennett said, be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone feels loved and believes in the goodness of people. Life is really tough out there. There's so many things that get in the road. So many things, unexpected things can happen to people along the path of life. It's really beautiful when we're kind to each other. That's what true wealth, real wealth is all about. It's much, much more than money. Sincere kindness is so healing to everyone, and everyone that's an onlooker to that kindness as well. Kindness is a very, very beautiful thing. It is a component of real wealth that's so valuable to attain. Sincere kindness heals the giver and the receiver. Looking at KS zone analysis, the 4 stages that all investors and traders progress through to become consistently profitable and attain real wealth. Zone 1 is the fear zone. that's when people are just starting. There's a lot of hope and luck and praying in the fear zone. Zone 2 is the courage zone, but unfortunately the blame zone as well. When things don't go quite as people expect, they can quite easily reach out or lash out at others. This is not just confined to investing and trading. This is all about life. These are 4 stages that all people go through in just about everything, really. Zone 3, the patience and rule zone, where people acquire probabilistic fearlessness through a lot of persistence and a lot of learning. Zone 4, the meaning zone. That's all about inner and outer peace, authenticity, fulfillment. Kindness is a very big component of the meaning zone. We're often taught from a young age that we should go after as much wealth as possible, be that inner wealth or outer wealth. Typically there's a division between the two. People who seek a lot of inner wealth tend to shun money. The other way around as well, people who tend to focus on lots of financial wealth tend to not worry too much about inner wealth. The truth is that many people feel that the acquisition of financial wealth will create a meaningful life eventually. I'd like to share something because I think it's really important. Without kindness, it's not possible to have fulfillment and meaning in life. This is a really important thing. Many people can become very wealthy and also incredibly empty. Kindness is a thing that fills people up, not just the person, but those around them. That is what gives fulfillment and meaning in life. And kindness is also, it has an internal dimension. Kindness is not just about being kind to others. You should always be kind to yourself first, before being kind to others. It's almost a recipe for putting your own oxygen mask on first. Sometimes it's hard, of course, when you really care about people, but the concept is kindness is just not totally external. It's also very much an internal process. Oscar Wilde said it really nicely. The smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention. After many years of living, we tend to assess people on what they actually do, not what they say. Acting in a consistent manner is often very difficult, especially over a long period of time. Doing kind little acts consistently over a long period of time is a beautiful way to live your life. It will give you so much meaning and so much happiness. Winston Churchill had a wonderful quote, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." Showing kindness to yourself and others is the most wonderful way of living. That's the bridge to acquire real wealth. Rule 774 is so important. Master yourself to master the market. This is what we do when we talk about chaos zone analysis and real wealth. It's all about self-mastery. We're going to zoom out and have a look at the markets. They're really quite important to view and assess, and then we're going to zoom in. The S&P 500, the proxy for stocks, up 34% for the past 12 months. Gold down 7%, Bitcoin up 314%. Looking at the KS model, a crypto technical trading model based on institutional price psychology, we can see that we're in the bull market psychology segment of the current run. We're expecting far higher prices. Bull markets tend, and pretty much always, end with a blow-off top. That's exponential price increases. We're coming close to that. There's just some retracement. But as always, we need to look across the entire world to see that nothing can derail. What happens typically when you get black swan events is this massive reduction in price. Black swan events are always happening. We've had a couple, unfortunately, recently, and I don't think we're out of the woods yet with the Evergrande situation. Let's just zoom in to this current price action. We can see price has been doing quite well. It came down, spiked down, had a long tail rejection, and then is moving up. We can see that there's a lot of resistance that will come into play at 44,916 on Bitcoin. We also see that we've got fairly decent support at 42,970. Bitcoin is currently trading at 43,600. We can also see some fairly good support levels below at 40,710, 38,034, 35,275, and 32,937. Even if price comes all the way down and touches this support line, the bull market is still in full flight. The markets are always moving in a wave. We shouldn't be too concerned about that. When price gets above this $45,000 mark, gets above this resistance, we'll feel much more confident that things are on their way up. Before that happens, we could get a lot of price volatility. Part of mastering ourselves to master the market is all about the expectation and understanding that 20, 40, 30, even 50% dips are quite normal in the crypto market. We can see that the crypto market, going back to the 2016 bull run, was supposed to finish around this particular point where the blue sun is. However, crypto decided to do something that other people didn't actually count on, which was going up. And it went up for quite a long time and had massive gains. Massive gains come from the exponential movement of prices. That's why even if we get a 20, 40% drawdown, 30% drawdown, it doesn't make much difference, because exponentially price is always increasing in the crypto space. Of course, until it hits the moon, the rocket hits the moon, then we enter the bear market. So we've got to be really mindful of things. But the technicals look very good at the moment. I would suggest, just expect a little bit more of downward price momentum before things repair. When we compare the stock market, bonds, to crypto, we can see crypto is very, very small. These valuations on global stocks and global bonds were at the end of last year. Of course, they've increased substantially more, but the real key is to just show you the relative differentiation between stocks, bonds, and crypto. What typically happens, stocks tend to fly to bonds, which are viewed as a flight to safety. If we see bond prices going up and therefore bond yields going down, we get concerned that a correction is in process. We can see that bonds have a lot of money in them. Bonds have a lot of money because there are a lot of powerful interests that seek to take their money to the best return. As crypto gains more widespread adoption, of course, bond money and stocks will cross across to crypto. It's just inevitable. Having a look across the global markets, we can see a lot of green throughout the world. In the past session, the US market did quite well. Energy and financials, the two top performing sectors, the two lowest, utilities and communication services. It's really important for us to track the VIX in the US market. Now, why do we look at the US market? Because the US market absorbs nearly 60% of all funds that flow into stock markets globally. It's a really big player. It's important to look at. When we had the quadruple witching, we saw a very large increase in volatility, And we see from past quadruple witchings that volatility tends to subside. It tends to go up and subside. Now we know inside our community that when the VIX spikes, the fear spikes, prices go down. When the VIX drops, prices go up. This is a really important relationship, and we need to see how it's playing out across the different sectors. Right now, the VIX is coming down. This is a really, really good sign. It's currently 20.87. Idealistically, we want to get it down to around the 17.5 level. And of course, we can't make it go down. It's just what markets do. But the VIX trading underneath 20 is really what we're after, as low as possible to around the 16.5 mark. We'll just keep our eye on things. We can see that the very large reduction in fear from the inverse VIX also moves in the direction of the stock market. So for example, NASDAQ recovered, Bitcoin recovered, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones and the Russell 2000 all notched up gains because the fear was coming out of the market. I'd like to give you a little bit of a gem on Rule 109, Enhance Pattern Recognition. We're going to apply this. We look at the NASDAQ because the NASDAQ is one of the most important components, especially of the stock market. We can see that there was a large sell-off. There was a continued reduction in price and then a large sell-off. We've seen a repair. Now this repair is getting over this resistance line, and it also has support underneath here. We would call this mild support at the moment. Now what happened in the past? Let's compare back. When the resistance was crossed, what happened to the NASDAQ? It rallied. Here we could expect it would rally according to this pattern recognition. Let's have a look here. The last dip, we can see that resistance was overcome and then prices shot up. Notice this long tail rejection, bringing the price back to around here. This is really important to keep your eyes on these tails. The tails tell you a lot. What about going back here? The resistance was overcome. It shot up but faked out. Now what happened there? There was a particular resistance line. Do we have one of those? We could conceivably have a secondary resistance line up here. So that's one of the reasons I get you to look at pattern recognition. Now what do we see? It came up, touched this line, for example, touched that line, and then shot down and went lower. Shot down and went lower. Now we notice these support lines coming into play that we talked about in the previous video. That should create a lot of support. That plays out at about the 14,653 mark and the 14,385 mark. Now what happened? Price hit that, so we could say price hit it, dropped to support, and then what did it do? It bumbled around, negative air. So it's almost like it came back, didn't quite touch the line, came down, touched the support again, and then what did it do? Got up over this resistance, turned it to support, and was on its way again. Came up over resistance, turned it to support, and went up again. This is really important for you to understand. This is not about the NASDAQ. This is about everything. In crypto, it's all pattern recognition. It's really powerful for you to know these techniques and tricks. This is why I mentioned there could be a bit of negative momentum before we get a final repair. There's so many things to look at, but have a look at Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin's fingerprint in the background. Bitcoin basically peaked at around the time that the NASDAQ peaked. It's been coming down. It rallied up a little bit with the NASDAQ, then it dropped, then it's recovered a little. We're seeing some synchronization between the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. With this in mind, we want to keep our eye on what's happening with the NASDAQ. We can also see, going back to a previous high, it dropped, recovered a little bit, just like this, came back to a line, dropped, came back to a line, and then had a secondary line. It's like all things, we never miss out, and price is negatively biased. The critical thing here is to just be aware that we could come down and touch these supports. If that's the case, that is totally fine. It's better to expect things than to be caught off guard. We look at bond prices because bond prices give us an indication as to the strength or weakness of the financial system. When bonds actually rally in price, that tends to throw a negative weight because the bond market is absorbing all the money from the stock market and crypto. So it's really important for us to understand what is going on with bond prices. If they go up exponentially, that is a cause for concern. We can see the bond prices, and I'm tracking around 12 indexes here, bond price indexes. We can see that they are starting to move up. We really need to keep our eye on this. It's really early days yet, and we may get a repair, but what I have done personally, and I always said that I would share what I do with you, I have just recently started taking a little bit of money out of the market in expectation of lower prices. This I do automatically because I buy things at predefined levels and I sell them at other levels. I'm looking at the current structure of the market and I'm seeing that potentially we may need to do a little bit of risk-off behavior, but it's always in line with what you do and what you want to accomplish with your investing. If you're simply holding for the long term, don't worry too much about it, because as we know, Bitcoin has gone up and up and up and will continue to do so as more and more adoption occurs. If you're maybe from a trading perspective and you have some positions that you feel the profit is good, you may like to take a little bit off the table, but again, it's completely up to you. When we compare Bitcoin to bond yields, we can see that the 30-year bond has actually broken below its support. This is a little bit concerning, and this would be a reason that you may wish to engage in a little bit of risk-off activity. We're not seeing the same sort of thing in the 10-year or the 0 to 5-year, but the 30-year is quite a good indication. As always, it's nothing to panic about. Very, very early timing is what we have, but that's why we did the early warning system in the first place. We can see that there is a little bit of confirmation. The dollar and bond prices tend to go up before any problem occurs. We can see the DXY is going up, but we also note the positive relationship between the DXY and Bitcoin. Realistically, what we need to do is just to keep our eye on the market. It's not going particularly either side of the risk equation at the moment. There's a little bit of confirmation of risk off. That is something that you should always bear in mind because crypto is so incredibly volatile. We can also see an interesting thing playing out. Basically, the inverse of the DXY tends to drive precious metals. We can see gold is recovering, silver is recovering, yet the dollar is rallying. This is actually quite an interesting thing. That may point to some systemic risk in the environment at the moment. The dollar is kind of like a stable coin in cryptocurrency. When the dollars go green, the USDC, DAI, USDT, BUSD, when they go green, that's an inflow from the crypto market to that particular stablecoin. When the dollar does the same thing, it goes up in value. Traditionally, the precious metals move in the opposite direction. The fact that they're moving up is quite interesting. Looking at the transportation indexes, we can see weakness now developing in the transportation sector. except for the airlines index. When we have a divergence or a non-confirmation between transportation and the major indices, this could be a foretelling of some problem. We can see that from the Evergrande situation, there is potential issues with the Chinese property market that could send shockwaves around the world. In all probability, the government will step in and support Evergrande, but the issue is that it is a systemic risk that is developing there. No return without risk, of course, and life is risk and risk is life. So it's not something that we run away from. It's really something just to be aware of. Typically, if markets are going to crash, we see a very large reduction in Brent oil and crude oil. We're not seeing that right now. There's a lot of things that we need to keep our eye on. It can be quite confusing. We can also see that the inflation rates from the 10-year break-even inflation rate and the 5-year are decreasing. This is potentially a very, very good thing for the market. For example, there is a lot of discussion on tapering because the excess liquidity being pumped into the markets should be reduced because it's inflationary, but yet we see the inflation rates are actually on a downward trend here. If that is the case, there's no need to taper. In fact, they may need to keep on injecting money into the system. So this just gives the government a reason to continue propping up asset prices. This is not only good for the stock market, it's fantastic for Bitcoin. We can see in the past when bond prices start to go parabolic, they start to go up the wall, it's a foretelling of an immense crash that's coming. We can see from the current price action in bonds that we're not in a zone for great concern. As a trader, what I do is I live off the margin between trades. The concept of this occurring hasn't occurred yet. We're not seeing bonds clearly break resistance and start to go up. I've drawn a very tight resistance line through here because I believe it's better than drawing one down through here. This is the line that touches the majority of points and probably gives us the clearest signal. Remember, with all lines, you're an artist, you can do whatever you want, but just make sure it makes sense to you. We can see that when we get this explosive breakout above very strong resistance, we've got to be concerned about it because we know what could well be coming. We're not seeing this just now. The reason that I risk off is more because I just want to have more dry powder available to buy the dip. I just think that that may help you understand my motives a little bit more. When comparing Bitcoin to public companies over the past 90 days, we can see Hut 8 Mining is out in front, followed by BTBT, Bit Digital, then Bitcoin, Argo Blockchain, Marathon Digital, Hive Blockchain, Bitfarms Limited, Coinbase Global, MicroStrategy, Galaxy Digital, Silvergate Capital Corporation, ADE, the Bitcoin Group SE, Riot Blockchain, and Voyager Digital. Comparing Bitcoin to Bitcoin ETFs over the past 90 days, we can see GDLC is out in front. That's the Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund. CI Galaxy Bitcoin ETF is next, followed by Purpose Bitcoin ETF, the Bitcoin ETF EBIT, 9-Point Bitcoin ETF, 3IQ CoinShares Bitcoin ETF, the Bitcoin Fund Canada, 21 Shares, Bitcoin ETP, then followed by Bitcoin, Bitwise 10 Crypto, CoinShares Physical Bitcoin Trust, GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, and Osprey Bitcoin Trust coming in last. Rule 172, zoom in. Let's have a look at the crypto market. We're going to do a Bitcoin Ethereum top 8 update. With Bitcoin's technical analysis, we can see Bitcoin currently trading at 43,677. It's coming up against resistance at its current price. It's really sought to cut above that resistance. It's been rejected, but it's still coming up. It's making its way up strongly. We can see that there's a little bit of turbulence to be expected here. When we get above this resistance, which would come into play at about 45,000, technical repair would have begun at that stage. We can see there's a bit of confluence between the NASDAQ and Bitcoin, so that's why I drew your attention to understanding the patterns on the NASDAQ. You can see those patterns on the NASDAQ playing out inside Bitcoin. That's why it's really important to have a look at it. We've got very good support coming through here at the 42,380 line. From the current price, support below 43,249, 42,830, 42,380, 41,892, and I would suggest that these lower levels are also quite good. 40,741, 41,442, 39,706, 39,235. I just moved the chart up to show you that we have very incredibly strong support at the 34,267 mark. If what happens with the NASDAQ goes potentially as I think it may go, hopefully it won't go that way, but if it does, we could find ourselves getting support around this 34,267 mark. It's really important not to be caught off guard with natural movements of price. That would just be a natural movement. And the other thing we need to keep our eye on is, does Evergrande actually be the tip of the iceberg on the property issues inside China? Property is a very major issue for the Chinese people. It's one of the few investments that they can actually invest in. They're limited by law as to how many properties they can basically own. And it's a regional jurisdiction on specific benefits as well. Where you live determines what benefits you get in that particular area. It kind of boxes you in. Therefore, the Chinese people seek to actually acquire property so that they can send their children to schools, much like what we do in the West as well, move to better areas so to give the kids advantage. What we see in China is there's about 40% of their income goes into houses. Houses are a factor of 20 of importance to Asian people as opposed to Western people. I know this because I've lived in Asian countries for a long time, and they're incredibly beautiful people and they love real estate. What we can see is that if Evergrande is a problem, we could expect a lot of turbulence in the markets going forward, but I don't think it will play out quite as quickly as a lot of people think it will. Evergrande has been a problem for literally over 10 years. It's not something that's just happened overnight. So with that in mind, just please bear the factors that there is potentially a problem, but there's always a potential problem in the world. Everywhere you turn, there's some kind of problem. That's why we focus on probabilistic fearlessness. Until the change in the trend is occurring, we just go with the trend. If the trend changes, so be it. It does, and there's nothing anybody can do about that. But we can deal with it when it happens. Ethereum is looking a lot more powerful. It's currently trading at 30.72. We can see this very tight resistance line. Ethereum's price has almost made it to that line. That's a far stronger signal than the one Bitcoin is sending. What we do notice here is this upward support has held very strongly, and we're coming into resistance at the 3096 mark. We can see that price would in all likelihood when it hits resistance, there's going to be a lot of sellers there seeking to push the price down. We'll see how they play out, but we always assume that when you hit resistance, you're going to have a degree of pushback. For example, hit resistance, pushback, hit resistance, pushback. It's quite normal, and we don't worry too much about it. We might get something like this from your pattern recognition skills. We may hit resistance, come up, drag along there for a while, and potentially repair. What potentially happened here? Ethereum has a lot of overhead resistance that it needs to get through before it can go on a fly. Literally, it can go on a bullet run, but it needs to get above this resistance coming into play at around 3,400 and very steep resistance at 3,649. When it gets above these figures, Ethereum should in all likelihood fly because it doesn't really have anything stopping it. We can also see that these support bands held very, very well at the 2796 and 2609 mark. If we get a reduction in price, now just think about going back to the NASDAQ. That's why I showed you that analysis. We can see that Ethereum came down with Bitcoin. We know Bitcoin and Ethereum are starting to sync up with the NASDAQ. Again, that's the reason I showed you that analysis, so you can look at it independently and see what's going on. If the NASDAQ repairs itself, that's a really, really good sign. At the moment, we can see that there are degrees of resistance that need to be overcome. So everything is so far so good, but we always have a cautious optimism. It's looking a lot healthier across the total crypto market. We can see all the alts have managed to get above this key resistance line and turned it to support. We have an upward resistance line that, when turned to support, is looking really, really favorable. There's many, many ways of looking at the market, and you'll find the longer you're in the market, the more conflicting signals there are. You just have to literally contextualize them and not particularly worry about them too much. Just say, if this happens, I will do X, and if this happens, I will do something else. Having your strategy already aligned in front of yourself, that's the best way to do things. The current crypto market is $1.981 trillion. It's bounced really, really well. We can see the relative strength coming back into the market too. Just keep in mind that correlation between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and NASDAQ at the current time. Rule 109, Enhance Pattern Recognition. We're going to look through the top 8. Here are the top 8 on a 4-hour time frame since the big sell-off, not the current sell-off, just that big one before. Now, what do we notice in these? What's poking out to you? Please let me know in the comments. When you look at Bitcoin, what do you see? Do you see, for example, a line running down here? We could pop that in, a line running down there, and we could make it reasonably tight. What about Ethereum? What do you see there? We can do the same kind of analysis. We can put a fairly reasonably tight resistance line on it. What do you see is the difference between Bitcoin's recovery and Ethereum's recovery at the moment? They're both recovering. What do you see about this pattern? This low, this low. They're about the same, aren't they? They're just a little bit below that low, with the current price action. This is a fantastic way of doing comparative analysis. Now, if we draw a line from that sell-off to around here, through there, we get a resistance line like that. We notice something really interesting, that this particular, maybe I just turn this on, this particular line is becoming quite a fascinating area for our analysis. We're basically looking, I'm doing a little bit of a different thing here. Okay, so basically we're looking for a bit of relative strength. We can see Bitcoin is under resistance. Price is just below this particular low, and I can do a same sort of thing. You can see Ethereum below resistance and below this horizontal level. Cardano, the same kind of thing. It looks like on Cardano 2340 is quite an important line to cross. What do we see as we look at Binance Coin, for example? We draw the line down here. We're seeing a slightly different structure in this. Whoops. You gotta love it when you keep the line on. When we have a look at XRP, that's quite a high peak. If it was to come down here, we can see the price is actually starting to overcome that resistance, turning it to support. That's very different from the others, isn't it? And that's probably because it's so high up. A potentially better line to draw would be around here, but we can see the same kind of thing is happening. What about here? If we look down here at DOGE and draw a resistance line using that base, we can see price is starting to come up. Actually, in terms of DOGE compared to XRP and Cardano and Binance Coin and Ethereum and Bitcoin, DOGE is not doing too badly. It's nearly recovered that line. Let's have a look at DOT. We can draw that strong resistance through there, and we can see that it's literally being overcome. DOT has done so well. It's absolutely been on a tear. Now, SOL is a little bit difficult to draw. We could draw something like that, but it's a little bit loose. Potentially, it's better to draw something like this because there's a lot more price action through here. You got a lot more touches. You can see SOL is seeking to recover. It is so strong. Let me know in the comments section which you think is the strongest out of these top 8, and potentially what pattern interests you the most or is the most interesting to you. Let's have a look at the market movers and try to assess strength and direction. Looking at the Bitcoin stablecoin supply ratio SSR oscillator, we see that money has been flowing into Bitcoin. It's leveled out. It's starting to consolidate around this point. We know that there's quite an association between price and futures open interest across all exchanges. When futures open interest across all exchanges drops, that means closing out of positions. We see the price going down. What do we see here? A lot of closing out of positions. Now we're seeing an uptick. So at this particular point, we're seeing at about 13.134 billion. What's the current figure? Considerably higher, 14.07 billion. This is good. The open interest, or the interest in the market, is increasing. Turning to 24-hour liquidations, 239.76 million in liquidations across 49,012 trading positions. Across the past 12 hours, about 79% of positions, liquidations, were short. We can see in the last couple of days, we had about 450 million of long liquidations and about 200 of short. The day before that, we had about 612 million in long liquidations, 143 in short liquidations. The day before that, 3 days ago, 1.15 billion in long liquidations, 120 million in short liquidations. Right now, we're seeing 30 million in long liquidations and nearly 100 million in short liquidations. This was what I was saying in the previous episode. It's calling in the shorts because there's a lot of downward price momentum. the shorts will be attracted because of a sense of certainty that things are going to decrease. This is one of the things in crypto. You have to be a little bit careful. If you're going long, you have to be careful. If you're going short, you definitely have to be careful, because short positions can yield very large losses. So no matter what side of the market you're on, please take care. And I'd like to add, if you're not consistently profitable, it's way better to stay away from any form of leverage. We always look at USDT because we want to assess if USDT is under any threat. We're not seeing any substantial open interest in either the perpetuals or traditional futures. From that perspective, we say USDT is fine. Turning to the to the options market on Bitcoin, we can see options expiring at the end of the month. I may just run through here just very quickly. So the 24th, the max paying price is $440,000. Total open interest 64,461.8. The put call ratio 0.53. Looking at Ethereum options, for options expiring at the end of the month, what we can see is the max paying price for Ethereum options, $28.80. Max paying is where the majority of the options expire worthless. Total open interest 462,393. Put call ratio 0.68. Let's go across to CoinGecko and look at the coins, which seeking what the top leaders are: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Tether, Binance Coin, XRP, Solana, Polkadot. Let's have a look at the greatest gainers in price over the past 24 hours. Arweave, Luna, Atom, Osmosis, Phantom, IOST, Tezos, HBAR, AVAX, Polkadot, Stacks, Solana, and Engine Coin. Let's go the other way. What are the greatest losses over the past 24 hours? We can see stablecoin, 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 stablecoin. Not stablecoin, Leo. Stablecoin, 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 and SHIB. Okay, we're seeing a lot of stablecoins. The majority stablecoins past 24-hour percent losses. That means, this is a bit of a gem, that means that the market has rallied so strongly that the only thing losing money is a stable coin. And they're stable, they don't lose money. Okay, let's look at the 7-day greatest percent gainers. Cello, Olympus, Dezo, there's Omi, there's quite a few different coins in here. AVAX, Atom, OMG, SHIB, Osmosis, Pax Dollar. Now we're getting into stable coins. We see that stable coins. What is actually showing us here that not a lot has moved. If over the past 7 days you've got a number of stable coins being the greatest gainers, it's also the equivalent to thinking that they are the greatest losses. The market has come down pretty heavily. Gains have been focused and concentrated in only a few things. Let's look at the greatest 7-day percent losses. Sushi, Synthetics, Aave, HBAR, ICX, Rune, FTT, Comp, Uni, Link, Mina, One, and Kusama. We have a look at Binance Derivatives because we want to understand the power of price movements inside the crypto engine. 24-hour trading volume 71.4 billion, 24-hour open interest 8.2 billion. What we're really looking at here is to compare the change in the price of the contract, that's the derivatives futures contract, in the past 24 hours. We can see Bitcoin is about half of that in Ethereum. What does this actually mean? It means Ethereum has twice the interest that Bitcoin has. What about moving forward? We can see the other perpetuals. Let's just rank them by greatest percent interest, basically. So Cody, Luna, Seller, Atom, FTM, IOST, HBAR, XTZ, AVAX, Alice. Wow, there's so many, too many to read out, but you can see just how many there are. Maybe just go down a page so it doesn't make you dizzy. You can see there are a ton, 2 pages all the way down to 10%. Let's go the other way. Let's see what the greatest losses are. Well, there's no loss. There's no loss in the market, and that's borne out by the stable coins being the greatest losses over the past 24 hours. That means things are heating up. We can see, because there's no losses, there's nothing to report there. I'm really interested in your opinion. With the NASDAQ, you see the NASDAQ, it's hitting, or has a level of support down here, a level of support here. It has 2 levels of support below it. You can see a synchronization occurring between Bitcoin and NASDAQ. I think that's worth bringing out to your attention. What do you feel? Do you think the NASDAQ and Bitcoin is going to repair? Do you think they will diverge? Do you think, what are your thoughts on the NASDAQ? Do you think it'll come up and hit that resistance and blast through it? Or maybe it will retrace? Are you bullish or bearish? I'd love to know. Maybe just put bull if you think it will go up, and bear if you think it will go down. I'd like to thank all our incredible community members for your amazing and beautiful comments. Talk about healing. I read them and I'm just healed instantly. You're just so incredible. Just a beautiful, beautiful community, and I'm so grateful and honored to be part of your journey. There's been a few people that have reached out and bought me a coffee. I'd just like to thank them so much. I don't want to put the link up today because I don't want people buying me a coffee because I'm not well. I think it's really, I'm just so honored and touched by what you write and your comments across social media. Thank you, everyone. It really means an enormous deal to me. Thank you so much. Just a little gem you might like to keep your eye on. Just keep on looking for these dark green. This is from coin360.com. It's a great website. Have a look at it. HBAR, Atom, Luna, Tezos, XTZ are doing really well. Phantom is doing well. FTM. I think it's really fascinating to keep your eye on the outperformers, and especially you can go the other way too, and you can look for whatever is red. Only the stable coins are red. Well, Leo's red a little bit, but this is interesting because it's showing that the money is flowing out of stable coins into the crypto market. We can see that futures open interest, or the change in the price of the derivatives contract, we can see 2-to-1 between Ethereum and Bitcoin. You can see so many things playing out here. That's why I cover all this data for you. It's going to give you an enormous edge in the market. I hope you found the content useful. Please consider sharing and liking this video if you think it will help others. Thank you to our moderators for keeping our community safe from scammers. Please say hi and let me know where you're viewing from, and if you have any questions. I'd just like to let you know, because I know a lot of community members are curious, I'll need a couple more days to recover, but it's an absolute pleasure to do these videos for you. It's really, in many ways, the highlight of my day to help and to share the knowledge that I've acquired over many, many decades. So it's all good. I'm not pushing myself. I'm just doing what I can. So I just wanted to let you know. Thank you. If you would like daily updates on price movements in the crypto market, please subscribe to YouTube. I've left helpful links in the description of this video. Please remember, crypto is volatile. Always prepare yourself for the best and worst case scenarios. Reality will likely be between them. Stay safe out there. Take care, and see you next time. Bye for now.